Hi friends, today we are discussing the third and final stanzas of the poem The Road Not Taken. I hope you enjoy the videos I uploaded. The link of the written document of the session will be available in the video description area. I expect your valuable comments as feedback so that I can get improvements in this new endeavor. Let me begin the session recalling what we discussed in the previous session. At the outset of the poem The Road Not Taken, our speaker is describing a fork in the road. The speaker wants to go down both roads at once, but since it is impossible to walk down two roads at the same time, he has to choose one road. He is thinking hard about his choice and staring down one road, trying to see where it goes. But he can only see up to the first bend, where the undergrowth, the small plants and greenery of the woods blocks his view. The poet pondered for a long time over which road he should travel. He inspected the first road and simply took the second, which was just as agreeable as the first one. This is the overall idea of the first two stanzas. Now we move to the third stanza in detail. And both that morning equally lay in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. And both that morning equally lay in leaves no step had trodden black. Trodden means walk over. These two lines are the example of imagery. That means when we read these two lines, a picture of two untrodden paths come to our mind. Through the first two lines, we can assume perhaps the poet wants to say that both the paths were similar that morning, because both had leaves on them and no one had stepped on them as they were still green in color. Dear friends, see here again, we hear, as we have heard at the end of the second stanza, that the paths are equal, but we find out something new, that it's morning. Perhaps he goes in the flashback. It is tough for the traveler to recognize the real road, as in the morning he is the first person to travel to this place on that day. He could not decide the right path, as no step had smashed the leaves on the roads to allow him to go for the right one. The paths are covered with leaves. Oh, I kept the first for another day. With an O at the beginning and an exclamation point at the end, this line is emphatic. Emphatic means characterized by emphasis. The speaker feels strongly about what he is saying here. He says that he saves the first road for another day. The speaker seems like he is already regretting his decision. He is rationalizing his choice of path by saying he will come back to the one he missed later. This is a familiar way to deal with difficult choices. You can always come back and try it again later. Perhaps we think so. Yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. See, the speaker knows how way leads on to way, means how one road can lead to another and then another until you end up very far from where you started. Because of this, he doesn't think he will ever be able to come back and take that other path, as much as he wishes he could. He knew that he could not go back on the choice that he had made. That means the speaker realizes that his hopes to come back and try the other path may be foolish. Students, here we return to the metaphorical meaning of this poem. In any life decision, we can hedge our bets by thinking we can always come back, try a different option later. But sometimes our decision takes us to other decisions and still others, and it is impossible for us to retrace our steps and arrive back at that original decision. It is like deciding which school to go to. I can always transfer. A school student might think, but then once the decision is made and freshman years has passed, the reality hits that switching schools is a lot more complicated than it seems, and it is hard to start completely over somewhere else. So, in nutshell, we can say that if in our life, once we choose an option, we must keep on moving ahead with that option and we never get a chance to come back and take the other option that we had left earlier. Moving to the last stanza. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverge in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Dear students, the last stanza is much debated, but there are a few clues as to its meaning. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Sigh means deep breath, hence here means in the future. The speaker says that in the future he will take a deep breath and say that he has failed in choosing the right path. The word sigh reflects that he is disappointed with the decision. We know that the narrator is now speaking a long time later as he refers to the choice of path he made as being in the past. Ages and ages is an example of alliteration, one of the literary devices, and it means the repetition of consonant sounds. Two roads diverge in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. This gives the reader a sense of the future. The narrator seems to indicate that he chose a less traveled road and that one choice in his life had made all the difference. The poet took the path that no one else did, and that is what has made the difference in his life. However, the word difference could mean either success or utter failure. So we can say, once upon a time, the speaker had reached such a point in life that there were two options for him, and he traveled on that road which had been traveled upon by lesser number of people, and that decision of his decided his future. In nutshell, similarly, in the future when you grow up, then you will say that once upon a time when you were so young, you had two options. The choice that you made you what you became of it. This is a very strong message for all the students that you should be wise and be careful while making choices out of the options that you have in your life, because your future depends on the choices that you make today. Dear students, now it's time to summarize the poem. The narrator comes upon a fork in the road while walking through a yellow wood. He considers both paths and concludes that each one is equally well traveled and appealing. After choosing one of the roads, the narrator tells himself that he will come back to this fork one day in order to try the other road. However, he realizes that it is unlikely that he will ever have the opportunity to come back to this specific point in time, because his choice of path will simply lead to other diversions in the road and other decisions. The narrator ends on a nostalgic note, wondering how different things would have been if he had chosen the other path. Dear friends, like every literary work, this poem has also something to tell us, and that is called the didactic purpose of art and literature. This poem reminds us life is a continuous journey full of divergence every now and then. The important thing is to move on without looking back whether the choice of path taken was right or wrong, because the right or the wrong are relative terms. We cannot get everything in life and have to make choices. Whatever direction our life takes is determined by the choice made by us. So make a wise choice and be firm, keep on moving without being in a dilemmatic condition. Be confident in your choices. Dear friends, I hope you have enjoyed the session and got a clear understanding of what we discussed today. Once again, I remind you to write down all the main points of the session in your notebook. And one more thing, don't hesitate to come up with your doubts at the comment box because you are free to do it. And I will try my best to clarify them. Thank you. Have a nice day.